We are back. It's the Alex Jones Show. I am Jason Bermas, sitting in for Alex as he is on assignment. We are joined now by Richard Reeves, a local activist and host of Frontline Texas. Richard, how are you today?
Hey, Jason, I'm doing great, and thank you and Alex and the crew for having me on.
Hey, no, thank you for coming in. Why don't you just give a short synopsis of who you are and how you really became awakened to the Patriot movement? Because you've been a local activist for a long time. I know you've been out on trips with Alex before, with myself. You've been camera crew, driving us around, part of the action.
That's right. It's been a few years now. I first tuned into Alex in '97, but going back even further than that, I remember as a young kid in single digits of age playing dominoes and Pollyanna with my grandmother. And at that time, one of the best resources, ironically enough, was one of these tabloids like the Inquirer and things like that. At that time, that's how you got a lot of this information about the New World Order and how ultimately the plan was to take America over from within. Mm-hmm. And even then, as a 6, 7, 8-year-old playing these board games with my grandmother, she was telling me about that, how that we were destined to be destroyed from within. And so that was really my first heads up as a young boy, even back then. And my dad, he kind of knew what was going on, but it wasn't until around 1992 that the puzzle started getting put together for me more, and that was from listening to a radio talk show host named Chuck Harder. I don't know if you've ever heard of Chuck Harder, but he was back in 92, and he was definitely at that time exposing the left-right paradigm and how that, the left side's phony, the Democrats are run by these fraudsters and the bankster gangsters, and then you've got the right side run by the fraudster, bankster gangsters. And he was really starting to demonstrate that back in 92. But then in 97, driving through Austin, Texas as a truck driver, I was going through Austin, Texas on a regular basis about twice a week, if not even more frequently. And at that time, Alex Jones he'd gotten on a blowtorch of a radio FM station, 98.9 FM, and he was doing a great job back then. I didn't have any idea. He was only in his early 20s. Back in 97.
He has that gravelly voice, so, it's very hard to distinguish.
Exactly. And so I didn't have any idea he was that young of a man. I thought he's in his 30s, 40s, something like that. But then
36th birthday today. Happy birthday, Alex Jones, out there. I want to throw that out there.
Well, that's right. Happy birthday, Alex. And wherever you are, I hope you're having a good time. But the thing that really got me in 97, listening to Alex, was that he really had the ability to articulate the New World Order and how they operate, which that's been one of the shortages that we've had for so many years. And he was able to articulate that, and he really got me on board. He was at that time really bashing Bill Clinton at that time in 97. And, of course, who did we have in the governor's mansion during that time? None other than George W. Bush. And so it was somewhere, I guess, in 1998 or 99 that they literally changed the format on 98.9 FM. It went to all Spanish radio, and all of a sudden that talk radio station was gone. And frankly, I lost track of Alex there briefly. But when I saw 9/11, when I saw those events of 9/11, I remember that I worked night shift, for many years, and at that time during 9/11, I was working night shift as well. But on that particular day, my phone would not quit ringing. It would not quit ringing, so I finally asked, man, I got to answer this call. It must be important. And it's none other than my mother calling me up saying, you need to turn on the TV and see what's going on. And so for the rest of the day, I did basically nothing but watch the events on 911. And I saw Building 7 come down live on TV that day. And from there on, I said, man, I got to find Alex Jones again, because this guy, I'm sure he knows what's up. He knows what's going on. I knew that when I saw Building 7, that the official so-called story that they were feeding us was a lie. And from there on, it's like, as far as activism goes, it's like, how do you go back to non-activism after seeing that and realizing that the NWO is that criminal and that crazy?
After 3,000 people are killed on live television. Right. And this is why I keep hearkening back to 9/11. I think it's very important we do so. And why? Because number one, it's their command and control operation. When they want to go into a nation, when they want to justify body scanners, what do they say? 9/11.
Right.
9/11. We're in a post 9/11 world, and this continues to this day.
Right.
8+ years later.
And fortunately, with guys like Alex Jones and you, Jason, and all the work that's been done, is you hear less of that. Imagine where we would be. Imagine where we would be if we didn't have all these activists out there exposing 9/11 truth. I think we're not that far from a day when they're going to be, the powers that be and the mainstream media are going to be afraid to talk about 9/11 because the overwhelming numbers of us are going to be 9/11 truthers. I've seen this from being to Tea Party events before, where one of the things is, see, I'm a grassroots ground warfare. I'm a grunt on the ground is what I am in this info war. I'm one of the grunts on the ground. I go to Tea Party events in San Antonio. I've done a little bit of Tea Party events here in Austin, and then I'm always going to the different city council, county commissioners hearing, Campbell board hearings, all these different, legislative hearings, etc. So that gives me a different perspective, being boots on the ground. And what's going on in the Tea Parties is that you can picture a scene out of Braveheart. And that's why I like to kind of describe it, is that what you got in the Tea Parties is you got liberty-minded people, patriots, 9/11 truthers on one side. You picture one of those battlefield scenes where they show the camera and they show that divide that's like a grassy field between these two armed forces that are about to just head on towards each other and clash. And, there's going to be clanging of swords and spears being chunked and, horses running over people and people getting stabbed, etc., crossbows being fired. And that is exactly what's going on in these Tea Parties, is you've got liberty and patriot-minded people encountering establishment Republican rhinos, the Republicans in name only, the neocons, and then you've got a lot of the globalists involved too. But the overwhelming number of people is going to end up be patriots. We're going to win this battle. I think that the Republican Party is the low-hanging fruit still. But as a matter of fact, now on that program Frontline Texas you mentioned earlier, what I talk about is that we need to get big enough and bad enough with 9/11 truth and all these NWO exposing issues to where we literally take over all the political system, left, right, Libertarian Party. We've got patriots involved in the Libertarian Party. I say to libertarians, man your battle stations, keep your posts, don't let the NWO come back in and corrupt any of the parties. Libertarian Party is basically run by patriots and constitutionalists, and now I think what we're going to see is the Republican Party become patriot, and we're starting to see people get involved in the Democrat Party, and you can see that right here in Travis County. And I know it's a national show, but I want to emphasize that these little things that are happening all over the different places are just a microcosm view of the overall that's going to where 9/11 truthers, patriots, etc. keep getting bigger and bigger, and we end up being the majority.
Well, I've noticed at these events, like these Tea Party events, that even the guys that maybe don't know about 9/11 truth, that are the mainline Republicans, if you give them an Obama deception or a fall of the Republic, they're just wide awake to that. They can see that. You know what I mean? Obviously, 9/11 isn't dealt with very much in those films, maybe briefly, out of a 2+ hour movie. But they look at that and then all of a sudden they're opened up to, hey, wait a minute, the Federal Reserve is a private system. Hey, wait a minute, the Bilderberg Group does exist. Hey, this isn't just Alex Jones talking about Obama standing in front of the United Nations as their Secretary General, betraying the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and ultimately the people that are in this country. So you start them out with something like that. Then you give them, a loose change final cut, a fabled enemies, a 9/11 truth rising, and you can get those for great deals. And we encourage people. I remember the Tea Party I went to in San Antonio in April with Glenn Beck. There was a group there, I believe it was San Antonio 9/11 Truth, and they had copied over 1,000 Obama deceptions. And I personally witnessed them handing them out to people. And I can't tell you how many little old ladies, in their 60s and 70s, grabbed it and they said, I got sent this last week. I just watched it last night. This was unbelievable. Thank you for a hard copy. I'm going to give this to my son. I'm going to give this to my daughter. And it was so heartening to me that we can have such a big effect with what someone perceived are small movies. We don't get a big theatrical release. No. Miramax isn't backing us.
Right.
Mainstream Hollywood could give a rat's ass about us.
It's grassroots warfare at the best. And exactly what you laid out, I heard you talk about earlier in the show that you went to San Antonio to that Tea Party. And so you got to witness firsthand that it is like that Braveheart movie where you've got these two opposing forces clashing together, but the truth is going to win out. It's just a matter of reinforcing and getting it out there. And like you said, maybe with the neocon, you have to start out talking about the debauched food, the GMO food, or maybe it's about big pharma, or maybe it's about the HPV vaccine that Rick Perry wanted to ram down everybody's throats, or maybe it's about the fluoride in the water. But sooner or later, somebody's got an issue that you can touch them on, and it's touching their life. Maybe they got an autistic kid who knows what the issue is? You can talk about public schools and how the continuing dumbing down of America just happens over and over and gets worse every year. So there's some way to approach everybody, and maybe 9/11 truth for some people is kind of the end of the road where they finally get to, but they will get to it or they'll have to deny it. And for those that would deny it, then I think they're in a heap of trouble, because I've seen it happen at these Tea Party events where you've got one guy that he's not a 9/11 truther. Well, as he's walking around the room, he's meeting different people or whatever, he's running into 9/11 truthers.
Yeah.
So it was like one of these movies, like you see one of these zombie movies where every time you go around the corner, you run into another zombie. Well, it's another 9/11 truther. And so that's what we're going to get to, is we just need to be so ubiquitous